Welcome to the Community Input Meeting number 4 for the I-49 Inner City Connector Project in Shreveport, Louisiana. The purpose of this meeting is to provide the community with an update on the I-49 Inner City Connector Project, or I-49 ICC, since the last round of community input meetings in 2016. We will share information relative to the project's build alternatives and introduce a new build alternative that's been added to the study. This meeting also provides an additional opportunity for you to provide valued input as the project progresses. You should have already signed in and received a meeting handout. After you view this presentation, you can move to the adjoining room where you will find exhibits and map displays, a GIS table where you can see map overlays of the project, and a real estate table staffed by members of the Department of Transportation and Development team. There are multiple ways for you to submit comments today. You can record verbal comments, write written comments and leave them in the comment box, or you can use one of the comment kiosks to submit your comments online. Please make sure you've signed in to ensure your name is included in the attendance record for this meeting, and to provide contact information for future announcements. Members of the project staff are available to assist you and are identified by name tags. The proposed I-49 Inner City Connector Project, or I-49 ICC, is to develop and approve the location of a new controlled access highway to connect I-49 with I-49 at I-220 within the city of Shreveport in Caddo Parish, Louisiana. 2 new internal interchanges are proposed, one at Ford Caddo Street and one at Hearn Avenue. It's important to understand the National Environmental Policy Act and how it impacts the development process. NEPA was passed in 1969, establishing the first major federal environmental law. It requires agencies to use a systematic interdisciplinary approach to consider environmental effects for all projects. The Department of Transportation and Development's NEPA compliance process consists of 3 primary phases. The first is informal coordination with the lead federal agency. The second includes constraints mapping, developing a range of alternatives, and preliminary evaluation. The third phase, which is where we are now, includes project initiation, scoping, documentation, and a decision. There are 7 stages to DOTD's project delivery process. Stage 0, the feasibility stage, was completed in 2010. Stage 1, our current stage, was initiated in 2011. This project's purpose and need is to provide improved connectivity between existing I-49 and the I-49 I-220 interchange, providing for economic development created by improved access to the interstate system. The original plan, developed in the 1970s, included the I-49 Inner City Connector section from I-20 to I-220. But due to funding constraints and community concerns, the I-49 ICC section was dropped from the plan. Since that time, the inner city community has continued to experience a decrease in population. A feasibility study for the I-49 Inner City Connector was completed in 2009, and an environmental document was started in 2011, which included build alternatives 1 through 4. Build Alternative 5 was added later in response to public comments suggesting a loop alternative. As the project progressed, Build Alternative 4 was eliminated after the previous round of community input meetings in 2016 due to that option's impact to historic properties. Cultural resource surveys were conducted for the remaining alternatives, with approximately 2,000 structures inventoried. The State Historic Preservation Office named Allendale as a potential National Historic District and noted that National Historic District St. Paul's Bottoms has experienced significant losses. This is important because many historic properties may also be considered Section 4F resources, which means they are eligible for listing on the National Register of Historic Places. 4F resources also include publicly owned parks, recreation areas, and wildlife or waterfowl refuges. If 4F resources could be impacted by a project, alternatives must be considered that remove or lessen potentially adverse effects. Build alternatives 1, 2, and 3 would adversely impact the potential Allendale National Historic District and would cross part of the St. Paul's Bottoms Historic District. And build alternative 5 would adversely impact Cross Lake. Since all of the build alternatives would adversely impact Section 4F resources, an alternative has been developed to minimize that impact, known as Build Alternative 3A. Build Alternative 3A has two options for connecting with Ford and Caddo Street, and we are here today to share information on this new alternative. Build Alternatives 1, 2, 3, and 5 are still under consideration, as is the no-build alternative. As a review of the build alternatives, the map to the left is an overview of all the current build alternatives, including 3A. The map on the right is a close-up view of the general alignment of build alternatives 1 and 2, which shows the westward turn originating at the Ford Caddo Street interchange. Build Alternative 3A was developed to reduce impacts on potential historic properties, and engineering studies have shown it is a feasible option. 3A avoids impacts to the Cross Lake Recreation Area, which is a primary water supply for the area, and it lessens impact to historic properties, particularly in the potential Allendale National Historic District. Build Alternative 3A passes through the St. Paul's Bottoms National Historic District and is adjacent to the potential Allendale National Historic District. It should be noted that in May of 2014, only 12% of the original contributing structures to the St. Paul's Bottoms National Historic District remained, and since 2014, decay and fires have resulted in even more losses. The State Historic Preservation Office has indicated the potential for delisting or reducing the boundary of St. Paul's Bottoms National Historic District due to these losses. Most of the remaining historic structures are on piers and could possibly be moved to mitigate impacts. Build Alternative 3A essentially uses the same connection with I-49 at I-20 as Build Alternatives 1, 2, and 3, and generally heads north along Pete Harris Drive in similar alignment to Build Alternatives 1 and 2. The most significant difference occurs at and after the interchange with Ford Caddo Street. Here, Build Alternative 3A continues generally northward, turning west north of the power plant en route to Hearn Avenue, avoiding turning into the Allendale community. Build Alternatives 1, 2, and 3 all turn west near the Ford Caddo Street interchange and continue through Allendale en route to Hearn Avenue. Build Alternative 3A is presented with two options to connect with Ford Caddo Street: a loop ramp with signalized intersection or roundabouts with braided ramps. The map on the left shows the loop ramp option in the downtown area, and the map to the right illustrates the roundabout with braided ramps option through the downtown area. These two maps are a zoomed-in look at the Ford Caddo Street interchange area with street realignment and closures shown under the proposed interchange type options. We're presenting both interchange options because they each result in different impacts. Both call for realigning Pete Harris Drive between Garden and Ford Streets, maintaining access at Murphy Street. With the loop option, northbound I-49 traffic from the I-20 area exits via a loop ramp to Ford Caddo Street and re-enters northbound I-49 around the loop. Southbound traffic from I-220 will exit to Ford Street between Pete Harris Drive and Allen Avenue. Control of access requirements will limit north and south traffic between Pierre Avenue and Common Street to right-in, right-out movements, and there will be no north-south free flow across Ford Caddo Street in this area. Intersections at the ramp terminals and Common Street will have signals, and I-20 westbound traffic can exit onto I-49 northbound and exit at Ford Caddo Street. Under the roundabouts with the braided ramps option, northbound I-49 traffic from the I-20 area exits via the braided ramp to Pete Harris Drive to the interchange with Ford Caddo Street and re-enters northbound I-49 through the roundabout at Ford Caddo Street. Southbound traffic from I-20 will exit to Ford Street between Pete Harris Drive and Allen Avenue. With roundabouts at the ramp terminals, Allen Avenue, and Common Street, traffic flows freely on Ford Caddo Street and north-south access remains intact at Allen Avenue. Pete Harris Drive and Allen Avenue can become one-way pairs between I-20 and Ford Caddo Street, with Pete Harris Drive northbound and Allen Avenue southbound, allowing for the conceptual development of a business boulevard-type entry to downtown. I-20 westbound traffic can exit onto I-49 northbound, but will not have access to the Ford Caddo Street interchange. Traffic studies show this movement is minimal and should not adversely affect current traffic patterns. Now that you've had a chance to learn about the newest build alternative, we'd like to present some details on how the build alternatives compare relative to impacts. This graph demonstrates the number and types of structures that could potentially be directly impacted by the current build alternatives. This table provides a comparison of impacts to some of the environmental resources affected by the current build alternatives. As you can see, impacts are similar among the 4 alternatives adjacent to downtown. Build Alternative 5 crosses Cross Lake, and it is only elevated across the lake and at ramps and interchanges. The other build alternatives are elevated throughout. As a result, Build Alternative 5 has more impact to open water and prime farmland soils than the 4 alternatives that are adjacent to downtown and do not cross Cross Lake. All of the build alternatives are presumed to have a low to medium chance of impacting archaeological resources, and all but Build Alternative 5 have a medium to high chance of impacting historical structures. All 5 build alternatives are considered to have a medium-level chance of affecting potential environmental liability sites, which include underground storage tanks, dry cleaners, landfills, and others. None of the build alternatives are considered likely to affect protected species or scenic streams. You can view more details relative to impacts on the I-49 ICC EIS Build Alternatives Comparison Table exhibit located in the exhibit viewing area. As we move forward with the project, one of the most important steps will be considering context-sensitive solutions, or CSS. CSS is an approach to advancing transportation projects in a collaborative manner and in a way that fits into the community and environment in which a specific project is located. This approach leads to the preservation and/or enhancement of scenic, aesthetic, historic, iconic community and environmental resources while improving or maintaining mobility, safety, and infrastructure. CSS can be under a highway structure, adjacent to a structure, and it can provide links between community features. You'll see this in the exhibit area, showing how CSS concepts have been implemented under transportation facilities in both the Shreveport-Caddo area and other parts of the country. These examples are provided to help you to consider CSS concepts that may be of interest to you. We will be reaching out to the community in the future to develop these types of concepts for this project. We invite you to stay and view the exhibits, share your comments, and discuss your concerns with the project team. You can provide comments directly to a team member, stop at the comment area to submit written or verbal comments, or use one of the comment kiosks to submit comments online. You can also provide comments via mail or email. Comments received by midnight on October 27th, 2023 will be included in this meeting's public record. So, what happens next? Comments received during this meeting will be compiled, reviewed, and considered, along with all other comments received to date on the project. Public comment, along with potential impacts, both positive and negative, will be evaluated. Based on this evaluation, a preferred alternative will be identified and presented to stakeholders Department of Transportation and Development, Federal Highway Administration, and the North Louisiana Council of Governments for consideration. Additional technical documents relative to the identified alternative will be required prior to the completion of the draft Environmental Impact Statement document. The draft Environmental Impact Statement, with an identified preferred alternative, will be provided for public review and a public hearing will be held. After the public hearing, all environmental impact statement comments will be reviewed and addressed, and the environmental impact statement will be revised as necessary, then submitted to the Department of Transportation and Development and Federal Highway Administration for approval. Once the Federal Highway Administration issues the decision document, the final environmental impact statement will be made available to the public. Thank you for your attendance and your feedback. This presentation will repeat every 20 minutes during this open house meeting.